Okay, welcome everyone in the glow of the Hanukkah Neiris on the sixth day of Hanukkah. You know, the Welt says that the sixth day of Hanukkah is Torah Shabbal Peh, because the six is the Mishnah, right? 5 yesterday was Chamisha Chumashei Torah. Today is Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, which is the Torah Shabbal Peh, which, by the way, is what the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash represented, because the Torah Shebiksav was the Aron Kodesh, right? Inside the Aron Kodesh and the Kodesh Kedoshim was the Luchas and the Shivrei Luchas. So that's Torah Shebiksav. The menorah, which is the Chachmas Ar, represents Torah Shabbal Peh, which is the 6 orders of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi wrote the oral law, and of course the Gemara elucidates the Mishnah, but the oral law is represented. Anyway, we know that the Chanukah dreidel toy was when the children would learn Torah, and they were told that if the Syrian groups would come to inspect, that they should hide their Svarim, and they should take out the Chanukah toy and play with it. That's where, the origin of the Chanukah toy. There is a famous vart that's said by many of the Gedolei Chasidus that it's interesting that there's a Purim toy and a Chanukah toy. The Chanukah toy is the dreidel, and the Purim toy is the grager. The difference between the two is that the Chanukah toy is spun from the top. The Purim toy is spun from the bottom. Isn't that interesting? The dreidel is spun from the top, and unless you're upside down like Marshall, but normally the Chanukah toy is spun from the top, and the grager is spun from the bottom. And they in Hasidic terms, the Yeshua on Chanukah came from Isarusa de La'ela. It came from above, because at the time of Chanukah we don't have evidence that there was an amazing wave of tshuva. To the contrary, we were misyavnin, we were affected and impacted by the Greeks in a terrible way, and it was only a small cadre of one family of Kahanim, of Matzio and Yehuda Maccabi, but by Purim it was Isarusa de l'Sata. The Isaris came from below. Like Knais Kala Yehudim, we all fasted 72 hours. It was a tremendous. So the awakening came from below. So that's as Marshall would say, that's elementary, my dear Watson. He wants to hear the Milton Bradley story. So what happened is Milton Bradley contacted me that they wanted to put out a sophisticated dreidel toy. In other words, they wanted to make it with lights that when it falls, the letter will light up, and they needed somebody to write the rules. So they asked me to write the rules for them and the explanation of the ancient game. So of course I sent them that there's 4 letters, Nun Gimel Hey and Shin. It stands for Neis Gadol HaYasham, a great miracle happened there. And Nun is nothing, and Hey is half, and Gimel is all, and Shin pays. And right away they called me and they said that the game makes absolutely no sense. Because if anything, Nun should win, because that's the Nes, that's the miracle. And the next thing should be the Shin, which is the city of Jerusalem, your holy city. So the rules don't make sense. So I sent back to them that I didn't know you were so particular. What really is it's based on Yiddish. And that is that Nun is 9, or Nisht, no. Hey is halb, half. Gimel is ganz, is all. And Shin is either shtel or shtitz, to pay. And I got back a express mail document from them that this doesn't work because they did an analysis and they found out that at the time of the Syrian Greeks, at the time that we say the miracle happened, the Yiddish language yet wasn't in existence. It wasn't a dialect that was in existence, right? So, it's like a question that Marsha would ask, right? So I told them I didn't know that the think tank of Milton Bradley was so exacting. So I told him, I'll tell you how it really works. Now I'll give you the whole story. You see, in Yiddishkeit, in the Aleph Beis, the Aleph, the first letter of the Aleph Beis, represents Hashem, who is the one and only. And I explained to him that they wanted to get, intense. So I told them that the Aleph is a Vav with two Yuds, which is 26 in Gematria, which is Yud Kei Vav Kei, the ineffable name. Aleph means the chief, the boss. And in Yiddishkeit, the closer we are to Hashem, the bigger winner we are. So as we spin through life, Gimel is the closest letter to the Aleph, and therefore it's the winner. The next letter is Hey. It gets half. Nun is already far away. That's nothing. Shin is all the way on the other side. You're in the pits. You're so far away from God, you got to pay. So that's the dreidel story. Now,
what came of the game?
Now, the only part of the story that I made up was Milton Bradley. Never happened, but it's a good shot.
You're still collecting the royalties.
Yeah, I'm still collecting the royalties. Yeah. Now,
Israeli dreidel with the pay.
okay. Now, I want to say in preface to the shir that isn't everybody happy that I decided to finish that piece of Gemara last night, so that we don't have to wade through it again. Remember, I said that. I said the shir on this, everybody is happy except for Marshall. He would have liked to do it again, but Marshall, you could listen to the tape again.
I got my frankfurters cooking. I'm okay.
I smell them. They're very good, Romanian ones. What make is that?
What?
What make is that? Is that like a New York company that you get it from New York?
No, Romanian Chicago.
They
process them right here.
Oh, they process them in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Most of your meat you get from Chicago?
Usually those oxes that I had on the past few blot we use for the meat.
Yeah, I'm saying most of the meat is from a local butcher, and
well, I don't know where they buy from. I don't know whether it's the main slot. They do all the butchering there.
Okay, so we are dedicated by A.B. Spry and family for the protection of our troops, and they're battling, boy. They're battling. They recovered 2 bodies that were killed, that they recovered. And they're unveiling a lot of missile launchers and Hashem should protect them, and all of Achenu Beis Yisrael all over. And for the schus of Issa Zeb ben Yuta, Shimon Klein, Lila Nishmas Asher Anshel ben Yehuda, Gidel Bar Shimon Pinchas. We're also sponsored by Irving Fish, bound for his schus, Issa ben Rezel. We learned from my Shver Avigdor Arya ben Rivka, Meir ben Chaya Sarah. They should all have a refuah shalema b'seich Shachel Yisrael. We are. Let's see if we could mute Eddie. He sounds like he's.
Can I ask you a question, Rob? What is the halachic stand about releasing hostages? How far do we go?
Well, this is a very, very, very complicated question. When they gave up 1,000 plus people for one person, and one of those was the one that masterminded October 7th, it shows how complex this issue is. And we have Gemaras that we don't redeem captives for more than they're worth, so that we shouldn't make other people in danger. This is a yesod in halacha. We know that Maram Rattenberg did not allow himself to be ransomed, and he died in jail. So going to the extent of, first of all, of releasing an inordinate amount of murderers, any one of them that could, come into a shul and blow themselves up, is not a simple thing. And I'll tell you that the decision of what to do with the hostages is a specific body of halacha which does not have unanimity. The responsa on Pidyon Shvuyim is extremely complex. Pidyon Shvuyim is one of the highest levels of tzedakah, and it's extremely complex. I can't answer you, especially not on a regular achas. By the way, I have a question before we start the share. The variables here are extremely many and extremely complex. And it does also highlight the fact that we are not under a Torah memshala, which is one of the problems that certain sectors of our Shemei Torah mitzvahs have a very serious problem with. That, we are not under a Torah memshala, so it could put Klal Yisrael in danger. So this is not a subject that you can answer on one foot. Now,
Thank you.
We are holding way ahead, the way Marshall likes it. We are holding, and I should say that it's very nice to have Berish with us here on a Tuesday night. 11 lines from the top of Memad Ahmad Aleph as we welcome in Aaron Swade and A.B. Spry. Baruch Ian, who visited us, made a cameo appearance, but is back in his cocoon in Florida. Shalom Fogel, who is also in Florida. Irving Fishbaum and Yitzi Fuchs, Mel Zachter, Dr. Guy, Shimon Deer, Shimon Klein, Mo Kushner, Marshall Castle, with Frank Cinderetti, and Stephen Holtzman, Ruvain Pollack, Nachman Chapler, Michael, Mordechai Sultan, Eddie Chazan, Menachem Imansky, Dr. Black, Rabbi Kranz, Ilya Shutman, Naftali Javelin, and Richard Rosenzweig is here. Maybe we could coax him to come out from hiding. Moshe Lehman, Abe Arbach, Yitzi Muller, Jay Siegel, Harrison Kletzel, and here in Shul on a party night. Every night is party night, but we have here Berish Gesserman, and it's great to have you back, Reb Blumenfeld. And Rich Lenner has managed to come all the way from a few blocks away, and Saba holding the fort here on a busy Hanukkah time. So the Gemara says as follows: Tan Rabbanan, apotropsin. Now, apotropsin is a guardian that's put in place in the case that there was a shar of a chereshaita or cotton, or somebody that was overseas that became a public menace. So the apotropis pays from aliyah, the ein mishalmin kaifer, but does not pay kaifer. Now that means that in the event that the shar gored 3 times, it pays nezik shalom from aliyah, but it doesn't pay kaifer. That means if it gored a human being, so on the 3rd time, the owner has to pay kaifer for the fact that it killed a life. The shar of the chereshite v'katan doesn't pay kaifer. Now the assumption is that the money comes from the assignment, from the chereshite v'katan, and from the deaf mute, the imbecile, and the minor. It comes from their aliyah. and from them we don't collect kaifer. So the Gemara says, why? Because kaifer is kapara. Kaifer is to afford atonement for the fact that your shark killed someone, and a cotton, or a cherish, or a shaita, which is pater called mitzvah shabbatayra, doesn't need kapara. Now, says the Gemara, man tona kufra kapara, who is the author that kaifer is kapara v'yasme, in the case of an orphan who needs an apotropos, labne kapara nino. They're not people that need atonement. They're pater called mitzvahs. And that would be true also of a cherish and a shaita. So the Gemara says, who holds that kufra is kapara? Rav Chisda, Rabbi Shmuel ben Oisha, Rabbi Yochanan ben Breiki. Remember, there's an argument. When you pay kaifer, do you pay the value of the person that your shark killed, or do you pay your value? The Tanya, v'nosan pidyon nafsha, he gives redemption for his soul. Demei nizik, that means that if the shark killed chatzkel, you give the value, kaifer is the value of chatzkel. Rabbi Shmuel ben Oisha, Rabbi Yochanan ben Breiki, as Marshall was just saying, he has oxen in Chicago. If it was Marshall's ox, then if his ox that was a muad gourd, Marshall has to pay his own value to make mazik, because he's affording kapara for himself, atonement for himself. My lav, Bava Kama Daf, the Rabbanan Savrei, the Rabbanan that say that you pay the value of the nizik of chatzka, the one that was damaged, hold kufra mamayno, that it's compensatory. Rabbi Yishmael ben Oisha, Rabbi Yochanan ben Breiki, who says you pay the value of the mazik, that's Marshall, sovered kufra kapara, that it's a kapara. So that would seem to be, the machlokes would seem to be totally if you pay the value of the person who was killed or the value of the owner of the shar. However, the Gemara nixes this. Amra papaloi. The kuli alma kufra kaparo. Everybody holds that kafir is an atonement. The question is, how do you atone? You atone for paying the value of the one that was killed. So the Gemara says, okay, my time with the Rabbanan. What's the reason of the Rabbanan? It would see, if everybody holds that kaifer is kapara, and just like that, as we're sitting and talking, without Marshall moving a muscle, we have in front of us 30 Zoomers now. That's really something. On a Hanukkah night, and if we give Marshall the two on Facebook and David Helfgott on Kol Loshin, it's 33. I mean, Marshall is creeping up there. 17 left to the promised land. So anyway, the Gemara now says, the Gemara now says, okay, so it's logical to assume that if everybody holds kufra kapara, then Rabbi Shmuel ben Oisha, Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika's pshat is the one that's more likely, that we pay the value of the mazik, Marshall's value, to atone for the fact that he was guilty that his shar killed someone. What's the reason, Rabbanan, that say that you pay the value of the one that's damaged? My time at Rabbanan, Nemer Shisa Lamata, it says Shisa, a lashon of kasheri. It says im kaifer yushas alav. So it says if kaifer you place upon him, nemer shisa lamata. It says that by kaifer. V'nemer shisa lamala, when a woman was hit and she miscarried. So it says kasher yoshes alav, like it's placed upon him. Malahalam b'denizik, over there it's clearly that we evaluate the value of the fetus that was miscarried. Afkan b'denizik. Here also, Kaifi Yushis alav is b'denizik. Rabbi Yishmael b'nai Rabbi Yechma Braikes, look, it says v'nosen pidyon nafshay ksiv. He gives redemption for his soul. So if it was Marshall's axe, he pays the redemption of his soul. Rabbanan say, in pidyon nafshay, we want to redeem his soul, but how do we redeem his soul? By paying the value of the person that was damaged, that we learn out from Yushas. Miyuki shaiminan b'denizik shaiminan. We do it, we evaluate the value of Chatzkel, who Marshall's ox killed. Now, just getting underway on a beautiful sixth night of Hanukkah. Sixth night of Hanukkah. By the way, as I speak to my wonderful Talmidim on TorahAnytime.com, Koloshin, YouTube, Facebook, wherever else, subscribers. We do not have a sponsor for tomorrow night shir. Meat-cates is very rare that it falls out without a Hanukkah. Ruvain would remember this. Ruvain, it happened 2 years ago, right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
The Rob is right. It's very rare.
It's rare. I know that it happened in the year 2000, and from the year 2000, I don't think it happened for 20 years. But I do believe that it happened 2 years ago, in 5781. Gedalia, our Balkairu, would have known. He's not here. But it is rare to have a Parshas Miketz not on Hanukkah. That means that the Haftarah that we learn this Shabbos is a very rare Haftarah. Okay, so now, Mishabach le Rava l'Rav Nachman. Rava, now here we're talking about really big people. Rava, we paskin always like Rava. Boy, look at this, 31 people, as Shelley Zeitlin comes in as the stratospheric 31st person. You know, that's Aleph Lamed, you know, Hashem's name, 31. So that's pretty.
Good evening, Rabbi. I'll sponsor this year.
Oh, you'll sponsor?
Leila Nishmas, my mother.
Oh, wonderful. So let me write that down right away. What's her name?
Esther Pessel Bas Yitzchak. Sunday is the Yortzeit. Esther
Pessel Bas Yitzchak, and that's by A.B. Spry, his mother. Very good. It's yours tomorrow night. Cheer it. And it's a good one. Esther Pessel Bas Yitzchak. Now,
Rabbi?
Yes.
You have me down for next week, right?
I told you should remind me, so you'll remind me next week. Okay.
You just reminded me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, so the Gemara tells us, remember, Rava, who is called the Basra, we always paskin like Rava. I mean, except for 6 times in Shas, whenever Rava argues with Abaye, we always paskin like Rava, except for Yal Kagam, except for 6 places hinted to in that acronym. But and Rav Nachman was a very great dayan. It says Rav Nachman was dainahu v'yorad l'umkedidina. So here we're talking about 2 great people, and Mishabach le Rava Rav Nachman. Rava was praising to Rav Nachman b'du Rav Acha bar Yaakov about Rav Acha bar Yaakov the Odom Gadol, that this Rav Acha bar Yaakov was a great man. So you know, big people like to meet big people. Amalei. So he said, when he comes to your hand, I want to meet him. You know, there is a lot of literature about what transpired when great people met great people. Like I think I've told you this once, that one time, one of the great Ga'inim in Eretz Yisrael in the 60s was the Chabina Rav. Rav Moshe Feinstein went one time in his life to Eretz Yisrael, and that was in 1964 for the Knessia Gedolah in 1964. And he met the Chabina Rav, and they spent about an hour together. after Ramosha departed, they asked the Shabina Rav, so what does he think? What does he think? He said, such a ge'oinus with a person who is so simple and modest, he's never met in his entire life. That's what he said. You see, you learn out things about Gedolim from their encounter. Anyway, there's a in the biography of the Rimnitzer Rebbe, not the one written by Artzko, which is the biography written by Artzko on the Rimnitzer Rebbe. Every page is a hair turner. Every page. There isn't a page that doesn't contain firecrackers. I mean, it's a must read. I have never read a biography as unique as the biography on the Rimnitzer Rebbe. But another biography was written by Rami Cohen, the famous Moil, who passed away in his 90s from COVID. And he writes that there was an encounter between the Rimnitzer Rebbe and the Klosenberger Rebbe. Both of them, Schusam Yagan Alein. And it was by a bris. And the Rimnitzer Rebbe was fasting. So the Klosenberger Rebbe said, eat, it's a Sudas mitzvah. And the Rimnitzer Rebbe said to him with great deference, the Klosenberger Rebbe was a very great man, he says he's tried that, but people suffered. The Rimnitzer Rebbe held up people with his fasting. And even by the bris, he didn't want to break his fast. So there's revelations that you find out when great people meet great people. Anyway, so Rav Nachman said to Rava, Ki also legabe, when you see next Rav Acha bar Yaakov, Heviu liyadi, bring him to me, I want to meet him. So Ki also legabe, when Rav Acha bar Yaakov came to Rava, and he brought him to Rav Nachman, Amalei boy minoi milsa. So he said to Rav Acha bar Yaakov, ask me a question. So he asked him, Shoshel Shnei Shutfin, a shar belonging to two partners. Of course, Marshall and Eddie. So the shar belongs to Marshall and Eddie. And it gored for the third time. It killed someone. So they have to pay kaifer. Ketzad Mishalman kaifer. How do you pay kaifer? Mishalem high kaifer v'high kaifer. Does Marshall pay a kaifer and Eddie pay a kaifer so that they each should have kapara? The Torah says kaifer echad amarachmana, that you only pay one kaifer. V'lo shnei kaifer. High chatzi kaifer v'high chatzi kaifer. That was what I would have said, that Marshall pays half and Eddie pays half. Kaifer shalom amarachmana. It says in order to achieve atonement you have to pay a whole kaifer. V'lo chatzi kaifer. So Rav Nachman didn't have a ready answer. Rav Nachman didn't have a ready answer. So Amalei, so Rav Acha bar Yaakov asked him another question. Tanan, chayve arochin memashkin enoisan. The din is that if somebody said, ki olai, I pledge my designated arochin. Arochin is, according to the formula in the Torah, of your age and your gender. It depends what age you are. So the din is that if the person is delays paying, so the gizber could come and take collateral to ensure that he'll pay. Why? Since arochin is not for atonement, a person might delay paying it. But one who is liable to bring sin offerings or guilt offerings, we don't take collateral because we assume that since that's for atonement purposes, a person will not be tardy. What about if Marshall didn't pay the kaifer? Do we say, came the kaparahu, since it's atonement based. So kechatas v'ashim dami, it's like a sin offering and guilt offering. And machmir chomer ilvei, Marshall will take it very seriously. V'loi bay mishkune, and we don't have to take collateral. Oy dilma kevan de lechavrahu de bay meisvelei, since he's not giving it to hektish, like by a chatas and an ashim, he's giving it to chatzkel. Chatzkel's orphans, Chatzkel's dead, right? Mamaynahu, he views it as money. It's not going to the altar. And he won't take it seriously. And we have to take collateral. Inami, Marshall says, I'll worry about it if it was I did it. So if I did it, I'm scared for atonement. But here, my animal did it. My ox did it. My ox was oxing around. It was his money that did damage. He's not going to take it seriously. And therefore we have to take collateral. So this was the second question that Rav Achba Yaakov asked Rav Nachman, and Rav Nachman said to him modestly, Amalei Shafkan, leave me, don't ask me a second question. I'm still stuck on the first question. So, take it easy. Now, 3 lines into the intermediate lines, and Daf Mem Amud Aleph moving briskly. Rich, can I trouble you for a cold water? Tan Rabbana. Shalu b'cheskas tam. If, let's say, Marshall borrowed an axe from Yitz. Now Marshall assumed that the axe was a tam. He didn't know that the axe that he's borrowing is a 3-timer, is a particularly dangerous axe. So shalu b'cheskas tam, v'nim tzamuit. It turns out to be a mu'it. Now Marshall says, I don't know that it was a mu'it, right? So balim mishalim katzi nezek, v'shayel mishalim katzi nezek. There the din is, Marshall doesn't have to pay nezek shalom because he didn't know. He would have watched it more if he knew it was a mu'it. He pays as if it was a tam, so he pays katzi nezek, and Yitz pays the other katzi nezek. Who had b'beishal? If it became Yitz, you don't give a loan of an ox to Marshall. Yitz is new to the share. He doesn't know yet, Marshall.
Not the list, especially not to Marshall.
Right.
All right.
Now, 1 second. Even Marshall agrees not to do it. So anyway, Yitz gives an ox to Marshall, and in Marshall's premises, it gored 3 times. Now it's established as a mu'at. Okay, but that's fine.
Don't you have to do it in front of the Bailam?
What?
Don't you have to be made in front of the Bailam?
Well, let's say they were. Let's say either they were, or he was the representative of the Bailam, then he did it in front of him. Either way, that's technical. No, it's either they did it in front of Yitz, each time they testified in front of Yitz, or they did it in front of Marshall because he's standing in for Yitz. But that's technical.
Right.
Either way, now Marshall returns the ox to Yitz, and then it damages by the Bailam. Bailam mishalman chatzi nezek. Yitz pays a chatzi nezek as if it was a tam. V'shoyel potem miklum, and Marshall is exempt. Now the simple pshat over here is that we say rishus mishana, that as we learned, that there's an opinion, Rishus Mishana, that even though it was a muad when it was by Marshall, now that it exchanged and went back to Yitz, it pays only a Chatzi Nezek. So that's the simple meaning over here. So now the Gemara takes this apart and shows that it's anything but simple. Anything, certain statements are, they look simple, but they're not simple. So interesting that the mighty Greeks, what were they interested in? Lashkicham Torah, to cause us to forget the Torah. And here, as we look at the Menorah, we're anything but forgetting the Torah. There are more people now finishing Shas than maybe ever before in the history of mankind. It's a remarkable thing. What Rameir Shapiro did is a remarkable thing, that it made it attainable for a person who's not learning full time to finish the entire Shas. It's very remarkable. And Jay Siegel has come. He feels that he needs to help the Marshall Bourbon Fund, and he has come on Zoom as well. If he could.
While you're interrupted, 2020 was the last time he came, so it's not Hanukkah, and the next one will be 2040.
It was 2020.
2020, the Rev said 21.
It's 2020.
20 was the year before, and the next one will be 2040.
2040. And I think before 2020, the time before that was 2000.
Makes sense. It's like every 20 years.
So this was 3 years, and then it won't be for another 17.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it is sporadic. That's what I remember.
Something like 2 times in 20 years. Then.
Okay.
Rabbi,
Yes.
does the degree of damage count towards whether it's a tom or a...
No, not at all. Not at all. It's only a mu'ud if it develops a chazaka, presumptive status.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, let's see the Gemara now. So Amar Mar, as the Gemara now analyzes this. Shalu b'cheskes tam. Let's get back to Marshall. All roads lead to Marshall. Shalu b'cheskes tam. Marshall borrowed it thinking that it was a tam. In other words, Yitz did not bother to tell him that it was a mu'ud. I had a mu'ud, I wouldn't bother telling him either. Right? But Yitz didn't bother telling Marshall it was a mu'ud. V'nimtza mu'ud. Bailim mishalmim chatzi nezek. So mu'ud has to pay a nezek shalom. Of that nezek shalom, the owner pays the extra chatzi nezek, v'shoyel chatzi nezek, and Marshall pays the original chatzi nezek that he would have had to pay if it was a tam. V'amai. So now the Gemara comes and leaps to the defense of Marshall. Somebody has to do it, right? So v'amai, lei malei. Why can't Marshall tell? Remember, it was damaging Eddie's ox, poor Eddie, right? So why can't Marshall say, "What do you want from me?" Te'ura she'ilei. I borrowed an ox. Aryeh loy she'ilei. I didn't bother a lion. If I would have known that it was a mu'ud, I would have guarded it differently. So Amar Rav Hakaba Mayaskinan, here it's talking about Shehikar Boishunak. It's talking about that Marshall saw the way that the animal was behaving. And this animal was making funny noises and putting its hoof in the ground, Marshall saw that this was a dangerous animal. V'neimale, but still he should say, Tam she'ilei, mu'ud loy she'ilei. I borrowed a tam, not a 3-timer. If it would be a 3-timer, I would have done differently. So the Gemara answers, look, obviously Marshall didn't protect it properly. Because if he would have protected it properly, he wouldn't be liable. It would be an inus. So Mishum Da'amalei, we tell him, Saif, Itam Hava, from your lack of guarding it, if it was a tam, Palganiska Baz Shlume. So now pay what you would have paid if it was a tam. Hashtanami Zil Shlim Palganiska. So V'neimalei, he should say, Itam Hava Mishtalim Megufay. If it was a tam, I would only have to pay from the body of the shar. So now that it's a mu'id, I have to pay from aliyah. Mishum Da'amalei Saif. Look, from the body of the shar, if you have to pay, then you would have to pay the owner for depriving him of the body of the shar because you're a shayel. So Saif, Atlav Tura Boy Shlumalididi, you would have to anyway deliver the axe to me. And if you paid half from the body of the shar, so then I would collect from your aliyah for the half of the body of the shar. The name Alay, but still Marshall's a wily fellow. He really is. And he says, Im tamu hava, if it was a tam, remember Chatzi Nezek is a knas, I would have been made of knas and I would be pater. Im tam hava moidino mifterina. And even if you hold Chatzi Nezek is mamain, but Marshall says if it was a tam, I would right away make the axe disappear. I would right away make the axe disappear that they wouldn't be able to collect from it. I would have caused it to disappear to the marsh, and they wouldn't be able to collect. But now that it's a mu'id, they can take Chatzi Nezek from anywhere. You didn't tell me that. Says the reason why Marshall has to pay a Chatzi Nezek is kegain the actim beidina v'tofsei. It's talking about a specific case where Bezdin sees the axe. Bezdin sees the axe before he had a chance to be murdered, and before he had a chance to cause it to run to the marsh. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, why do the owners pay a Chatzi Nezek? Namely, they should tell him, Atafsta l'tura b'yada mandalei matzi l'ishteyua dina b'adei. You gave over my acts to people that I can't argue with. In other words, you gave over the acts. So the Gemara says, I don't understand that taina. He says, what do you mean? Mishum da'amalei ihadrasei nihalach. If I would have returned the ox to you, lav minachav v'shakalei, they would have collected it from you. What did I do by allowing the court to take it? V'neimalei, but he should say to him, ihadras nihalei have a merikna leila agma. I would have caused it to disappear to the marsh. Now that havamina is a very shver havamina. What would it help if Yitz make it disappear to the marsh? It's a mu'id, and a mu'id pays me aliyah. Mishum damalei saif lav aliyah v'mishtalmei. You have to pay for maliyah. Says, well, this is only leading up to the next question. And that's good if Yitz has other money. But if Yitz doesn't have any other money, he could say you're at fault that you allowed Bezdin to get their hands on it. So Gemara says Marshall is within his right to turn in the ox for Eddie's payment. Why? Because Marshall owes the ox to Yitz, and Yitz owes the ox to Eddie. And the din of Shibud Rav Nosson is if if A owes B money and B owes C money, A could give it directly to C. So that's what Marshall did over here. He owes the ox to Yitz because Yitz gave it to him as a loan, but Yitz owes the money to Eddie because his ox gored Eddie's ox. So therefore Marshall is not out of order giving it over to Bezdin to pay Yitz, because that's Shibud and Reb Nosson. As the Gemara says, Mishim Damalei Ki Eichid Mishtab Dana L'Didach, just like I'm a shibud to return the ox to you because you gave me a loan, it's meshubed to pay Eddie for damaging his ox, and therefore I could give it straight to Eddie mid Rab Nosson. The Tanya Rab Nosson, if C has a claim of B for money, or A owes money to B, and B owes money to C, that we take it from A, and we give it straight to C. We give it to the one that the guilt is by him. Now, who would be shoyl if it became a mu'id by Marshall, and then Marshall returned it to Yitz, and it does damage? So, says the Gemara, it seems to be that Sefer Rishus Meshana. In the Sefer we said that when it changes Rishus, it changes its status. Because when it was by Marshall, it's a mu'id, and now that it's returned to Yitz, it becomes a tam, and he only pays a chatzi nezek, so that shows Rishus Meshana. But Reisha, Rishus ain't a Meshana. But in the Reisha we said where Yitz gave Marshall an ox that was a mu'id, and Marshall didn't know about it, but we say it retains its status of a mu'id. So you see there that we say in the Reisha that Rishus ain't a Meshana, even though it changed its ownership, so to speak, it doesn't change its status. Rabbi Yochanan says that's right. Tavra, it's broken. In other words, the Reish and the Sefer is not from the same mold. Misha shanazu lo shanazu. The Reish holds Rishus Eina Meshana, and the Sefer is Rishus Meshana. Rabba, the Gemara resolves this differently. Rabba Amar, Midireisha Rishus Eina Meshana, because when it was given to Marshall, and it says that he didn't know that it was a mu'id, even though when he gets it, it still retains its status of a mu'id. Sefer Nami Rishus Eina Meshana. So if the Sefer Rishus Eina Meshana, why, if it was a mu'id by Marshall, and then it's returned to Yitz, we say that now it's only a chatzi nezek. V'seifa haina taima b'shem de amalei. Yitz says, Marshall, you have no right to brand my ox as a mu'id. Lav kol kaminach de miyadis leila turai. You have no right to brand my ox as a mu'id. It's not yours. So you can't cause my ox to become a mu'id when it's returned to me. Papa Amar, the Sefer Rishus Meshana, because that's what we say, that when Marshall returns it, even though by Marshall was a mu'id, when it's returned to Yitz, it becomes a tam. Reisha Nami Rishus Meshana. Then in the Reisha, why do we say that if it was a mu'id by Yitz, it still is a mu'id by Marshall? Reisha Aina Taima Mishim de Kol Mokum Shaholach. Wherever this ox goes, Shem Ba'alav Olav. It's called Yitz's ox. Yitz's ox. There it's different. He's the owner. Marshall borrowed it. But wherever it goes, that's Yitz's ox. It's a famous ox. It has the name of the Bailam, and that's why it doesn't lose the status of a mu'id. Now, the next subject that we learn is the bullfighter's ox. the matador's ox. Now we know that when a shor gores, it's put to death. And by the way, we didn't learn it yet, but the Gemara is going to ask later on in the Masechta, how do you ever have a shor amuad? Once it gores someone and kills them, it has to be put to death even after the first time. How does it ever become a shor amuad? How do you become a 3-timer that you have to pay kaifer? It has to be put to death. It has to be put down after the first time it gores. So there are different approaches. One approach is that each time it was orak la'agma. It fled. And they didn't find it.
That didn't kill. Didn't necessarily kill. Of course, 3 times doesn't kill.
No. In order to be chayiv kaifer, it had to kill 3 times. In order to be chayiv for damages in Ezek Shalom, it's not killing. But in order to be chayiv kaifer, it has to kill 3 times. So if it kills 3 times, you have to put it to that. But anyway, the din is, we'll talk about that later on in the Masechta, but the din is that a shor that kills has to be put down. Now, our Mishnah taught that's only a shor that kills, not a bullfighter shor that was trained to kill. Because then it's not its fault. It was an onus, because it was trained to kill. It was trained to kill in the bullfighter's ring. What our Gemara is going to discuss is, can you use a matador's shor that killed a person, can you use that shor as a korban on the Mizbeach? Now, it's a shor that gored and has to be put to death, you can't use on the Mizbeach as a korban. But when it was trained and it's not put down, can you use it on the Mizbeach? This is a very interesting shayla. Let's see it inside. Shara itztad in ein chayiv misa, ibayelu. Ma'u legabe Mizbeach. A matador's bull that killed in the arena, can it be used as a korban? Rav Amakasha. Rav says yes. V'Shmuel Amapasul. Shmuel says no. Rav Amakasha, einasu. It's an einus. And it was trained to kill. V'Shmuel Amapasul, because Hari never by Aveira, because it killed a human being, which is a crime, and therefore it can't be brought on the Mizbeach. Meisvei. So the Gemara brings an interesting proof. Mina behema. When it says in Vayikra that you could bring a korban, so it says mina behema, from animals, not all animals. Loitzi es a reveya, an animal that was active partner in bestiality. Vesanirva, an animal that was passive in bestiality. Minabakar, it says minabakar, so an animal that was engaged in any type of bestiality is excluded from the Mizbeach. Minabakar, only from the cattle, not all cattle. Loitzias a nevad, that comes to exclude an animal that was worshipped. Minatzain loitzias a muksa, an animal that was set aside for a sacrifice for Avodah Zarah. Uminatzain, from sheep and not all sheep, loitzias a neger, that excludes an animal that gored and killed someone. Rab Shimon. So Rab Shimon says, why do we need a pasuk for both bestiality and a gorer? Im nema roveya, lama nema nagech. Im nema nagech, lama nema roveya. In other words, both those animals, an animal that engaged in bestiality has to be put down, and an animal that gored has to be put down. So why do we need a pasuk for both? So the Gemara says, Mipnei sheyesh b'roveya she'ein b'nagech. There is an element by bestiality that's not by goring. V'yesh b'nagech she'ein b'roveya. Roveya also by oines kiratzim. Roveya, whether the animal was an oines, it was the human engaged bestiality with it, it's not the animal's fault, or if the animal did it willingly, either way, the animal is disqualified. Noigeach lo yasa b'oines kiratzim. They didn't make it when it was coerced, like it is kiratzin. Nogeach mishalim kaifer, the animal that gores pays kaifer. Reveya, the animal that commits bestiality, ain't a mishalim as a kaifer. The fikach, therefore, since they have different elements, hutzrich leimer reveya, hutzrich leimer nogech. We need minabokar actually minam behema to exclude roiveya from the mizbeach, and we lean minat tzayin to exclude the animal that's goring. Now, let's go over the details of these different elements. Ketani mias roiveya also by einis karatzen. They made coercion like willingly. Noigeach lo yasa by einis karatzen. Doesn't that mean that if it's a bullfighter animal that was, so to speak, forced because it was trained to kill, it's allowed on the mizbech? L'may hilchasa lav lekarbon. So isn't that a proof that it's allowed on the mizbech, which is a proof to Rav? Says the Gemara leila katala. It means, like we explained, that a matador's bull we don't put to death for goring. That doesn't mean that it's allowed on the mizbech. And achinami mistaver the amr lekarbon. If it means that it for a carbon, if it's coerced, it's allowed to go on the mizbeach. It doesn't say that in the pasuk. Noigeach lo yasa ba'enis karatzen, lav oinis didei ksiv. It doesn't say anything about going on the mizbeach when it's coerced. V'lav ratzen didei ksiv. It doesn't say any of those variables when it talks about the mizbeach. It just says minat tzayin lo'itzi noigeach. It doesn't say whether it's coerced or not. El lav lekatala, because that we have a pasuk. We said that pasuk says ki yigach, if it gores on its own, and not if and not if it's trained to gar. Let's see. Should we go one more piece? It's always nice to be ahead. Yeah, let's go one more piece. So it says the Gemara. Amamar. Noigeach mishalem es kaifer. If it gores, it pays kaifer. Roiveya ein mishalem es kaifer. But if it engages bestiality, it doesn't pay kaifer. What does that mean? That if it engages in bestiality, it doesn't pay kaifer. Hechidami. Ilema derava v'katla. If it's talking about where it committed bestiality with a woman and killed her, and it's telling us that the owner doesn't pay kaifer if it was a mu'id, why not? Mali katla bekana, what's the difference if he killed her with his horns? Mali katla beravia, or trampling her, should pay kaifer. Ella derava v'loi katla, it's where it's bestiality and it didn't kill her. Well, of course there's no kaifer. That's no point. There's no kaifer because no one was killed. Hai delay mishalem kaifer mishum delay katla. Says the Gemara, no, here's the chiddush. It's where she engaged in bestiality with the animal consensually. And therefore she's put to death. Bestiality is a capital offense. And by the way, we look at bestiality as something that's so nauseating. I already heard in Shir, at least 12 years ago, I remember Lenny Lewenthal saying over from his brother, who was an expert in warning people about the internet, that there's 2 million sites on the internet about bestiality. 2 million. This was at least a dozen years ago. So anyway, yeah, it's amazing. It's just absolutely amazing. So anyway, so Amar Ba'ila Olam Derava V'Loi Katla. But since she engaged consensually, the Asiyul Beidina V'Katlua, they executed her. Now we would think that since she died because of it, the owner of the act should pay kaifer. It's ma'od sema that we should consider it command katla dummy, as if she was killed. Don't close it yet. Kamash Malan. Rav Amar, I figure we'll go to the Mishnah. Rich says, for all he cares, I could go another block. Rav Amar, Rava says, La'aylam derava v'katla. It's talking about where it engaged bestiality with the woman and killed her. Ude kakashalach mali kotla bekarnayim, mali kotla beravia. What's the difference if it killed her with horns, or it killed her when it slept with her? Oh, it's not so pashut that this kaifer. Kaifer is only by keren, which is kavanas alahazik. Here the animal didn't have kavanah to kill her. The animal was having fun. The animal was having sex. Keren kavanas alahazik. Hi kavanas alahaz atzmayu. But my pligi, these two pshatim, what do they argue with? This is a kasha we had once before on Daf Vav Amud Aleph, earlier in the Masechta. An animal that steps on a baby in the Rishus HaNizik and crushes it, does the owner pay kaifer? Now, why does Muad pay kaifer? Because after 3 times it becomes usual. Here the owner did it, the animal did it in a usual way, right away. It was walking and crushed the baby's skull. So maybe you have to pay kaifer. And it was in the Rishus HaNizik because regular chayiv in the Rishus HaNizik. Or maybe kaifer is only where the animal intended to do damage. Here the animal didn't intend to do damage. So b'may pligi beregel shedosal kabi tinik b'chotzer HaNizik, where the animal stepped on a child in the Chatzar Nizik. L'Abaya, according to Abaya, who says in this case over here, who says that he killed it with the Revia, and he pays because what's the difference if it kills with the horns or if it kills with its body? He holds that if it's done in a usual way in the Chatzar HaNizik, Mishalem Kaifer. L'Rava, according to Rava, who says here it's talking about that you don't pay Kaifer because it killed him while it was having sex. L'Rava loy Mishalem Kaifer, because he holds that you don't pay Kaifer where it's not Kavanas Lahazik. So Tani Kavasi de Rav, we have a brisa like Rav, that Rav says that a shorat staden is kosher on the mizbeach. Tani Kavasi de Rav, shorat staden, einay chayiv misa. The bull-fighting ox is not chayiv misa because it was trained to kill. And the kosher l'gabe mizbeach, and it's kosher for the mizbeach. Why? Because it's because it's like it was coerced, and therefore it can be used for a carbon. Rabbi said, I did the Mishnah Yomi already earlier when I was saying Chanukah Torah. Tomorrow night we're having the special Shir Mikates, which is being sponsored by A.B. Spry. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a Freilich and Chanukah.